In today's video, we are discussing about the tariffs. Donald Trump lost a court case on tariffs. He wants to keep them on. He lost in the court of law. Donald Trump lost court case, but adamantly wants to keep them on. The judges said that the EPA requires that more than emergency declaration alone. The law requires an unusual and extraordinary with respect to which a national emergency has been declared. The judges said that the IEEPA, like Donald just declaring an emergency, started tariffing everybody. The law requires an unusual and extraordinary threat to which a national emergency has been declared. Now, the spokesperson for the Trump administration said it is not for unelected judges to decide how to properly address national emergencies. The judges are interpreting the law in court. These are impartial judges. They have to interpret the law. One of them was appointed by a Republican, and one of them, I understand, was appointed by President Obama. These three men, they looked at the law and agreed that this man has exceeded his powers. Please, Donald Trump, stop your tariffs. The Canadian Prime Minister welcomed the court decision that struck down. Everybody was relieved when they heard that the judges have struck down the tariffs. This came as a relief to the international community, and that the President of the United States overstepped his constitutional authority by imposing sweeping levies on global goods. Literally, it's everybody whom they trade with. He has imposed tariffs on each and every trading partner of the United States. Unfortunately, he took the case to his partisan judges. As you probably know that in America now, in certain judiciary cycles, like especially in the Supreme Court, the bench has been politicized, has been divided into left and right, into Democrats and Republicans. Of course, there is one judge there who is always receiving gift from a Republican financier billionaire. And this judge is one of the most corrupt. His wife was chanting this, "Stop this deal," while the husband is sitting on the bench. Certain judiciary cycles of the United States have become more partisan and more politicized than anywhere else in the Western world. This decision was later stayed or paused by an appeal court while considering other legal argument, as I'm saying that this is a politicized, this is a partisan. Some of the judicial cycles of United States of America are politicized. They are either Democrats or Republicans. They're either left or right. They didn't explain this is a dubious ruling because it stayed tariffs while considering other legal arguments. They didn't explicitly explain where the lower court had a mistake. They just stayed them and posed them while considering other legal arguments. This is why I said this is the politicized benches. In America, unfortunately, this is a country where the benches are most politicized. What is Mr. Trump trying to achieve with these tariffs? He claims that they're to protect and bring manufacturing jobs to America. This is disagreed by mainstream economists, by educated economists in the United States and around the world. If sent shocks into the economy, this is human behavior. Things do not always turn out to be, because there will be retaliatory tariffs on this. People will start tariffing the goods coming from America, and this will be like an endless trade war. Secondly, Mr. Trump claims that he wants to raise revenue. Of course, we have to understand that how tariffs work. The local importer pays the tariffs.
Now, that message of free trade is one I conveyed to Canada's leaders a few weeks ago, and it was warmly received there. Indeed, throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. Now, there are sound historical reasons for this. For those of us who lived through the Great Depression, the memory of the suffering it caused is deep and searing. And today, many economic analysts and historians argue that high tariff legislation passed back in that period, called the Smoot-Hawley Tariff, greatly deepened the Depression and prevented economic recovery. You see, at first, when someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. What eventually occurs is, first, homegrown industries start relying on government protection in the form of high tariffs. They stop competing and stop making the innovative management and technological changes they need to succeed in world markets. And then, while all this is going on, something even worse occurs. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. The result is more and more tariffs, higher and higher trade barriers, and less competition. So soon, because of the prices made artificially high by tariffs that subsidize inefficiency and poor management, people stop buying. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. The memory of all this occurring back in the 30s made me determined when I came to Washington to spare the American people the protectionist legislation that destroys prosperity.
And as I said in the other video, he has three choices. Pass them over in total to the consumer, partially pass them over, or not pass them over at all. In the majority of the cases, businesses, they do the first one, pass them over in total to the consumer. He also wants to use them as a diplomatic tool, as a diplomatic weapon to force other countries to do what he wants, like to force Canada and Mexico to police their borders, to put more resources on the border and to stop drugs coming from Mexico into United States, or stop fentanyl, which is also another drug coming into United States, and also stop illegal migration from crossing into United States. He wants these two countries to put more resources on their borders so as to police their borders more and hence stop illegal migrants from crossing into United States. Tariffs effect on the economy. Tariffs can stimulate employment by attracting investment, by attracting certain businesses which are afraid tariffs might slow down demand of their goods, move their plants to United States and that making their goods within the United States. But conversely, certain business who adamantly continue to manufacture goods in their country look for other trading partners here to export to United States, although their goods are tariffed. They don't pay them, and American people do pay them. And also there will be retaliatory tariffs, which consequently the American will have a slow demand in the other countries, and which can be result in unemployment rising in the United States and the United States economy shrinking. This is the other side of it. As we said, shocks into the economy with an aim of steering the economy in a certain direction, but more than 70 or 60% of the times, things practically do not work always the way we want them to be. Because initially we'll be using these models, right? We sit down, we come out with the mathematical models and how if we do this will happen, if we do this will happen. But practically we might have completely different results. Sometimes you can tariff, say, washing machines from Korea, and increase the price of those washing machines, hoping that it will slow down the demand for the Korean washing machines. But people might have a brand loyalty to those washing machines. As a result, the demand does not slow down, and an American manufacturer will raise the price of his washing machine. And then now we have raised the cost of living for the entire population. This is how tariffs can work against the country sometimes. Mr. Trump, if you have made it this far, we ask that you subscribe and comment. Subscribe to the channel. We need to grow this channel. By just subscribing doesn't cost you anything, cost you nothing. And you're also helping me grow this channel. Who pays tariffs?
What is a tariff? It's cool to ask, really, especially with Donald Trump back in the White House. Now, simply put, a tariff is a tax on imported goods. But what does that actually mean? Let's try this. Say these t-shirts are sold by a US company, some hypothetical but obviously super cool clothing brand, and you have to have one of these t-shirts. But these shirts aren't actually made in the United States. They're produced by an international company, which is outside the US. Now that means the US company needs to import the shirt that you covet. Now, for the sake of hypothetical, let's just say for $20 a pop, which the US company then turns around and sells for, say, $60 each, which is an insane price to pay for a t-shirt. But hey, look, you do you. But what happens if the US government imposes a tariff on your coveted t-shirt? Why? Well, historically, there are two triggers for tariffs. One, protect a domestic industry. In this case, maybe the US t-shirt industry is getting crushed. And two, raise government revenues. Regardless of the reason, let's just say the government has now imposed a 10% tariff on our t-shirts, which means that the American company that imports the same t-shirt, it costs $22. Now, history tells us the American company isn't just going to eat that cost. Margins, they matter. So they pass that cost on to you, the consumer. Now, I get it. You have to have this shirt. So a couple extra bucks, no big deal. But you're asking about tariffs for one reason. President Donald Trump, a guy who fervently believes in tariffs, so much so that he's proposed tariffs across the board on every imported good from anywhere. Universal tariffs. Now, think about that couple extra bucks you were cool with shelling out for that trendy t-shirt. What if it wasn't just the shirt, but everything imported that you buy?
Tariff is an import tax paid by the local importer. This local importer has the three choices, as I've always said. He can pass it over in total, partially, or not pass it at all. However, there is a lot of misconception about who pays tariffs. I always hear about foreign governments paying, let's make America rich again. How would you make America rich? By taxing your own people. In closing, let's look at the bottom line. The bottom line, Donald Trump wants to surreptitiously raise tax on American people while claiming to have reduced taxes. It is a man who has mastered the art of how to bamboozle people his entire life. This is also another way he is the American people. We thank you for watching, and please subscribe to this channel. We want to bring you great content. Subscription doesn't cost you anything. It's free. Just subscribe, please.